Hi, Nanakort. Good evening, everyone. My name is Belle, and Belle Selkirk. And for those who don't know me, I know lots of people in the crowd. That's why I'm kind of just using my first name. But my name is Belle Selkirk. I'm a Noongar woman. I live on Wudandi Noongar Budja, and it's a real pleasure to be invited up to Wajak Noongar Budja, and I'll be your MC for tonight. A brief overview of this evening's program. We'll begin with our acknowledgement of country, and then we'll open official proceedings for tonight's lecture. After the presentation, there'll be an opportunity for questions and a little bit of discussion before we conclude. So on behalf of Quop Boranjanara Centre, also known as the Bourne Centre, so Quop Boranjanara meaning strong tree roots. So on behalf of the Bourne Centre, the Australian Indigenous Psychologists Association, also known as AIPA, the University of Western Australia School for Psychological Science, and the Indigenous Futures Centre, we thank you for joining tonight's public lecture. We are delighted to welcome community members, elders, students, researchers, practitioners and colleagues. This is going to be a lovely evening of knowledge sharing. Tonight's lecture, entitled The Sweetgrass Method, Integrating Indigenous Wisdom, Clinical Practice in Mental Health Care. It introduces the Sweetgrass Method, a culturally responsive framework that brings together Indigenous ways of knowing with contemporary clinical practice. Drawing on community-based experience and research, the presenters will explore how relationality, spirituality, cultural identity can be ethically and effectively incorporated into mental health assessment, prevention and intervention. Special attention will be given to Indigenous social determinants of health, engagement in care and practical strategies for clinicians working alongside Indigenous communities in respectful and collaborative ways. To formally open our event, it's my pleasure to invite Professor Pat Dudgeon AM, Director of the Bourne Centre, who will deliver the opening address and acknowledgement of country. Please welcome Professor Pat Dudgeon.
Thank you, Belle. I'm actually not myself. I'm representing Professor Jill Mulroy, who's the Deputy Vice-Chancellor of Indigenous Studies here at UWA. She sends her apologies and sends me in her stead. So on behalf of Professor Jill Mulroy, I'd like to welcome you all here. This is an important event. It's important that we bring together all our different researchers and practitioners to talk about Indigenous knowledges and carving a way forward for ourselves for healing and recovery. So with our Indigenous brothers and sisters who will be speaking tonight and who we've had many meetings over the last 2 days, it's important that we share our experiences and walk the road forward together. So this, I think, for me, marks a period of time where we're not only reaching out to each other across the nation with our allies. So I'm assuming all the people in the audience are our allies, but also that we're reaching out from a global context as well. So well done, us at the Bourne Centre. Well done, the Australian Indigenous Psychologists Association, the UWA School of Psychological Science and the Indigenous Futures Centre for making this all happen. And without further ado, I'd like to just on behalf of Jill, welcome you all to UWA. Oh, okay. And before I start, I'd like to just acknowledge that we are standing on Noongar Budja. We're standing on Wajak Noongar Budja. So a little bit just a background for me. I'm actually, even though I've lived here for most of my life and love living here, I'm from the Bardi people of the Kimberley, but I'd like to pay my respects on behalf of us all to elders past, present and emerging. I'd like to pay my respects standing on beautiful Noongar Budja and the cultural custodians and traditional owners of this beautiful country. So with that, I'll hand back to our MC.
Thanks, Auntie Pat. It's now my pleasure to invite Professor Troy Visser, Head of School from the School for Psychological Science, to offer a few welcoming remarks.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much to everybody who's been able to come here tonight. I'm really looking forward to this event. I think it's going to be an amazing talk, and I'm looking forward to hearing everything that Mark and Allison have to say. I just wanted to thank a few people, and then I will pull myself off the stage. So first off, I wanted to thank Mark and Allison for being here. I am a Canadian. And that becomes relevant in a second because they have flown all the way here from Minnesota, which is very close to Canada, but more importantly, a very long distance away. It is a very long flight. I've made it a couple of times, sometimes with a baby in tow, and I think my family would agree that that can be challenging. I really appreciate you coming here all of this distance to share with us tonight your lecture, and I'm, again, as I said, looking very much forward to it. I also wanted to extend my thanks to Pat and to the Bourne Center for inviting us to co-host this fabulous event and to be able to co-host it with IHA. It is a pleasure, and on behalf of all of the school, again, thank you to everybody for coming, and thank you, Mark and Allison.
Thank you, Troy. Our next speakers is the Australian Indigenous Psychologists Association. Now I'm going to stumble across it, but I'm going to welcome the newly elected chair, Professor Vicky Hovain, as well as AIPA co-vice chair, Ms. Shannon McNair. I also going to embarrass you while you're here. I didn't actually introduce you properly, but what I'm going to add is the Australian Indigenous Psychologists Association is committed to supporting and advancing Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander psychologists and promoting culturally responsive psychological practice across Australia. Thank you so much.
Good evening, everyone. My name's Shannon McNair and I'm a Mulgara woman from Shark Bay in Western Australia, Katharagooda. I live, work, practice as a psychologist in Geraldton, Western Australia and remote regional WA, and I'm really happy to be here this evening. I'm the co-vice chair of Australian Indigenous Psychologists Association along with Dr. Leda Barnett, who is based in Brisbane, and we have our newly elected chair, which is great, and I'll hand it over to you, Vicky.
Thank you, Shannon. So I'd just like to warmly welcome everyone who's made time to come to this important lecture today, this evening. And on behalf of the Australian Indigenous Psychologists Association, just express how thrilled we are to be supporting Dr. Mark and Dr. Allison's visit here today to share something that is deep in our hearts, how we hold the ancient wisdom of our old people who've gone before us and integrate that into, and practice that in our everyday lives, and particularly in our healing practices, because as many of us have found, Western psychological approaches, methods, paradigms, theories, etc., often don't capture our people's experiences of being in spaces in a country where colonisation has never stopped for us. So we're really thrilled. Thank you so much for coming this long distance to be with us and to share insights from your people. And hopefully we can continue to, exchange our knowledges as we go through the rest of the week and into future opportunities to work together. So I really warmly welcome you, and also Dr. Mark and Dr. Allison, really thank you for coming so far. And again, reiterate, AIPA is so thrilled to have you here and proud to support your visit here today. So thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Vicky and Shannon. Very well said. So without further ado, it is such an honour and a pleasure to introduce our beautiful keynote speakers. Dr. Mark Standing Eagle Baez is a citizen of the Coahuiltecan tribe with Mohawk, Pawnee and Mexican heritage. He's a psychologist, president of the Society of Indian Psychologists, an associate professor of clinical psychology and counselling psychology. As a general psychologist, he addresses a wide range of emotional, behavioural and relational concerns by integrating Western therapeutic models with Indigenous practices to create holistic, culturally attuned approach to care. He is the developer of the Sweetgrass Method, a culturally grounded framework that weaves Western evidence-based practices with Indigenous knowledge. Joining him today is Dr. C. Allison Baez, a training and technical coordinator with Tribal Tech and a proud member of the Tāp Pīlam Coahuiltecan Nation, with more than 25 years' experience across kindergarten to year 12 and higher education settings. She brings a deep commitment to culturally grounded practice and community-engaged work. Her research centres on Native populations, emphasising the integration of best practices through Indigenous cultural lens. Dr. Baez's work is dedicated to strengthening and empowering American Indian and Alaskan Native individuals, families and communities through culturally responsive approaches, collaboration and education. Together, Dr. Mark Standing Eagle Baez and Dr. Allison Baez will co-present on the Sweetgrass Method, an approach that brings together Indigenous wisdom, contemporary clinical practice in ways that are both ethical and practical. Please join me in giving a very, very, very warm welcome to Dr. Mark Standing Eagle Baez and Dr. Allison Baez.
Segu, Chumanam. Before we begin, we're going to start off with a song. This song is a calming song, but even within the calming song, it's a medicine song. So we want to start off this opportunity, this space that's created as relatives, as professionals, as practitioners, with the same goal of working and empowering Indigenous people. So we do things, if we had an opportunity to roll a smoke in our way, we would smoke and we would pray so that there's no lies between us, that we come together with the intent to help others and elevate, especially our Indigenous people. So with this song, before I render this song, the drum is to represent this life, this heartbeat that we have. And even the influx of the song that's rendered is a connection that we have with us and our Creator. So back in the day, our relatives didn't have cell phones. You know, we prayed and we used our instruments to connect, and we still use something very old today to stay connected with our Creator. So I invite you to keep your eyes open or closed as you wish. But this Good Way song, this medicine song, is for each and every one of you and what you do, and to bless you in all that you do, in hopes that you can continue to impact others in their lives. So something else, if you haven't had a good night's sleep, after this song, you're going to have an amazing night's sleep.
Can you hear me okay? Okay, thank you. We have to adjust for our height. As Belle mentioned, we're going to be speaking on the Sweetgrass Method, which integrates Indigenous wisdom and clinical practice. Kaya, Chumanam, Dr. Allison Baez, Tāp Pīlam Coahuiltecan Nation. Hello, I'm Dr. Allison Baez. I come from the people of the earth, also known as the Mission Indians, land of the spirit waters. The territory is also known as San Antonio, Texas, our homeland. And so today I want to invite you to look at some visuals behind me. But I want you to think about the imagery rather than analyzing the visuals that are intentionally used in Indigenous pedagogy. Here's a picture of me at graduation about 15 years ago with our daughter and her son, our oldest grandchild. This is our youngest child graduating from undergraduate school with a degree in psychology. Here's Mark and our children at a winter solstice ceremony. And here are two grandchildren celebrating a ceremony for community. And this is preparing for a teepee ceremony, otherwise known as the Native American Church, as a family.
Sego, Origigin, Garona, Chumanam, do Mark Standing Eagle Bays, do Alteca Paguame, do Yanawana Tāp Pīlam, do Pawnee, do Mohawk, do Mexican descent. Hello, everyone. My name is Mark, Standing Eagle Bays. I am of Coahuiltecan, member of the Coahuiltecan and also of the Waterbird clan. I am also of Mohawk and Pawnee and Mexican descent. I am very blessed to be here on these lands. When we arrived from the very long flight, we came and we grounded ourselves. Something that we're taught is to always seek the source of healing, and it was the water. So we went to the water, literally. We didn't jump in the water with our clothes, but we went and we put our hands in the water, prayed, and then blessed ourselves just to be grounded as connected with our relatives here. So we say we're from across the pond. So we're coming from across the pond in a good way. So we want to make sure that the way that we are here today is coming with good intentions to share some healing. As we say, we're here to share medicine. As we used to gather back in the day, whether it was in TP or in a longhouse or in a gathering, we would come together and share medicine and what works, what plants are medicinal. And that seemed to have stopped because it's not very appropriate, or it's witchcraft. And some of our elders had experienced some trauma through those experiences where they were taught not to share that those ways of living. And if they did, they were physically abused. So these were things that we want to continue to hold on to. So when we have this yarn, I'm not sure if this is a yarn, but to have an opportunity to really share what we have, what works. Hey, we have some Tylenol. Tylenol's good for you. And we have some, come and get some. So even though it's not Tylenol, but this is medicine. So we want to share that with each of you.
We all know that learning begins with a story, a symbol, and a reflection. Not with definitions, but with what you see behind me. And this is a picture, or a large picture of pictures that tells our story, our family. As we go through today's presentation, we're going to share with you a little bit about identity, role, and relational accountability, and what this may mean for all of us in the work that we do. We want you to think beyond the professional roles that you all have, and think about your identity, your ancestry, and especially your community, your mob. As we reflect on the identity and role, we want to encourage self-awareness beyond the titles with a focus on ancestry, belonging, and your lived experiences. For relational accountability, we want to emphasize the knowledge or relational and highlight ethical obligations to learning. With a relationship before our role that focuses on building trust, having the trusting dialogue with one another, and the cultural and positional awareness, thinking about our indigeneity, where we come from, our Aboriginal roots, and again, what mob we're from. Who are you in relation to your work? Who is your mob? It keeps us accountable through our lived experiences and our connections to one another. When you think about the Sweetgrass Method principle, we want you to think about that. Relationships, connections, and the importance of those relationships. Through this, we offer grounding work, as Mark mentioned earlier, and we've done it every day that we've been here with our smoke ceremony, welcoming us to country here at the university. And this helps us think of the work that we do in 4 specific ways. It really focuses on our healing because we know our people need to heal. And that begins with a relationship. The identity before our role, accountability to the community, and presence over protocol is key. Indigenous healing means relationships first and foremost. It recognizes a shared humanity. It allows us to be fully present, listening deeply, and building genuine relationships. So what is the purpose of our work? To share knowledge with one another and to have that exchange with you all here in this community. Specifically, we have 4 roles and identities and specific ways that we're going to share about this work so that we can address the inequities, so that we can respond to the gaps in the care that's being provided. We can focus on Indigenous ways of knowing, being, doing. We can bridge Indigenous and clinical approaches. And lastly, we can support culturally grounded healing. This emphasizes integration, not replacement of Indigenous knowledge with clinical practice, but an actual blending, or as Mark calls it, the weaving of both. So what does this look like in reality as we face Indigenous communities, Aboriginal people, Torres Strait Islanders here? We look at the ongoing impacts of colonialism, the intergenerational trauma and grief, and the systemic marginalization and inequity, which I'll speak to in a few moments. The disconnection from land, culture, and identity, and the poor mental health as a manifestation of disrupted well-being. It's not an individual issue. It's connected to social determinants of health, such as poverty and access and isolation. There is a connection with this poor well-being to suicide ideations or risks and substance use disorders, which becomes a coping strategy when there's an absence of being culturally grounded. So the challenge is not just access to care. It's many systems are not aligned with our people and our beliefs. So here are the disparities. This is an American Indian Alaska Native disparities in regard to suicide. We're the highest risk population with 91% higher than the US across the board. Our youth are the most impacted, ages 10 to 24. It happens in rural and tribal communities most often, and there are gender disparities for American Indian men and women, 39.2 per 100,000 and 14.4 per 100,000 for women. These disparities reflect structural inequities, such as historical trauma and access to barriers. It's not an individual weakness. So where do we fall short? Just a few examples on the screen behind me. We know that Western modalities are not cut out for our people. These Western models are often individualistic and clinical. They are limited in cultural relevance and screening tools. Their stigma impacts help seeking and disclosure. And there's a one-size-fits-all that doesn't work for our people. They're not culturally adapted. They're intrusive and sometimes unsafe. Research demonstrates that there is culturally misaligned care, and that's often ineffective. It's not a lack of tools, it's a lack of cultural alignment. But there's hope. We know that Torres Strait Islanders, the Aboriginal people of this land, and our own people back home have protective factors. And here are just a few examples on the screen. Our cultural identity, traditions, ceremony, language, and everything about who we are is a protective factor. We also know that our community and our connectedness with our elders and one another supports and provides stability. We also know that our spiritual and traditional ceremony gives us healing. Tribal sovereignty is something we have back home in America, and that gives us community that gives control to strengthen our own resilience. And lastly, enculturation is a lifelong learning experience about our own culture. And so these are just a few examples of how we look at the positive versus all the negative, which we all know exist and we know need to be discussed. But how can we help our people? We look to our culture to support and help strengthen who we are moving forward as we heal.
I'd like to ask everyone to pull out your traditional name of the creator. And it's very tiny, but it says, what cultural, community, spiritual, family, or personal strengths help people heal? What cultural, community, spiritual, family, or personal strengths help people heal from your perspective? So you can just take a look at this QR code and type in your thoughts. Thank you. So we have a relationship. Connection, as you will see, is the largest. So there's quite a few of you are typing in that word connection. As similar answers are presented, the larger that word gets. Love, food. Food. I've had too much since I've been here. But culturally, we do not say no, because that could be culturally insensitive, right? Belonging, love, relationship, being on country, connecting through music. Wow. Music therapy. Have you heard of music therapy? Music is powerful. Also, music can trigger certain events, positive and negative. But I love music. I use music, as you can tell, whether it's through instruments. I do play guitar. This is it's like a heart just pulsating. Relationship, shared stories, pride, guidance, learning language, faith in God, love and connection, seen and heard. James, where's James? James, we see you and we hear you. Thank you for all that you are doing. I mean, really, thank you for everything that you're doing. And keep up the amazing work and your academic journey as you will get to the finish line. as we've all have. So we're here to support you in any way we can, because that's what we do as people, right? We don't just say, let's see if he's going to make it. Let's see if he fails. See, he failed. But how do we come together as relatives? Because we want to show you our template. This is what we did. So we hope that you can look at our template so you can be just as successful. So your success is our success. And as clinicians, if we're not even related, shouldn't that be our responsibility? We're not in this position to get rich, right? Anybody in here to get rich? I see all the Mercedes Benz that are out there. Yeah. But we're here in the business of people and spirit. With our indigenous populations, we are grounded in stories and ceremonies that have been handed down. Gosh, I'm getting chills. That have been handed down. So why mix or change what works for our people? I think we know what works best for our people, right? So maybe ask us. So Allison was sharing earlier about Western applications. We know that they work. They show evidence, evidence-based practices. But a lot of those practices don't work with our people. So instead of just saying, forget those practices because we know they work, is what we're saying here is to weave in the very best of both for the client. So if we can just reframe and look at models that focus and strengthen and empower and elevate our people, then we're going to get more individuals to come into, like I say, our restaurant, because we're in the business of feeding people, right? So it would behoove us to look at what's the best thing we could put on the menu to feed the people. And we know that we have a lot of restaurants that do not serve our kind of food. So maybe the chef should get a sous chef that's indigenous and incorporate some ingredients so you can have more individuals in the restaurant, because we are starving for healing. Because we are not coming into the classroom or we're not coming into the office for therapy or counseling doesn't mean that we don't want to be happy. We deserve happiness. But maybe change the menu, right? Maybe change some of the ingredients. And just looking at some of the indigenous approaches understood in certain ways as disruption from colonial perspectives. What you have, it doesn't work here. Who developed this? Elders? Do they have a degree? No. Where was it? Was it in an institution? No, it was outside. Yeah. So they don't have any credentials. Those are our classrooms. In the bush area, in the water areas, the teachings there. Healing focuses on restoring balance, connection, and belonging rather than solely treating symptoms or diagnoses. That comes with relationality. We won't know that until we have this relationship or understanding of what works best for Mark. So it's not just a checklist. Yes, go ahead and I'm going to administer this psychological evaluation, and I'll go ahead and spit out what your problem is. I don't want to come back to you if you're only just going to be focusing on my problems. I want to sit and see if we're going to have this relationship. So I will then share with you the truth of what's going on. Because most of our family members, we will tell you what you want to hear. Because I don't trust you. You're going to report me? You're going to talk to my PO, or you're going to put me on medication? So I will just say everything is fine. Back in the States, we have the highest rate of suicide. A lot of our people are saying to the clinicians what they want to hear. It's not to say that they are doing well, that they're not hurting. It's a lack of trust. Driving down here, I saw so many facilities that are helping people, so we can't say that there's no facilities. It has nothing to do with the facilities. It has everything to do with the service. Change the menu. Change the menu. So the pathway to healing is something that I am so honored, excited to share, something that I developed out of frustration. And it was working on the Navajo Nation, and it was working with clients, and I was using, as I was trained, as I can maybe assure that everyone in here has been trained from a Western lens, right? We have to jump to those hoops and see what works and how it works and so forth. And these are the applications that I was applying, and they weren't working. And I'll never forget this. Someone that I admired, past tense, I mean, published up the kazoo. Just an amazing, he's a psychiatrist. I won't say his name. Non-Indigenous, I won't say his name. He's from the States, and I won't say his name. He's extremely well known, and he's been on TV, but I won't say his name. Said to me, because I was so excited, I saw him, and I was like, oh my gosh, almost like you meet your hero. And he came to see my talk on the Sweetgrass Method in 2012. And I was like so nervous, like I couldn't speak. And but I'll never forget what he said. And he says, when I was talking about the Sweetgrass Method and maybe add some different ingredients because what you are applying or providing is not speaking to our people. His response, and I said, that's why you're probably going to have an empty restaurant. His response was, you don't go out there since they need help, they know where we are at. So if they're not coming here, maybe Mark, your people are not ready. "14 years ago, and I remember that. I was like, you son of a... Oh, this is recorded, right? Oh, darn you, why did you say that? But for him to say, maybe it's not working, the evidence-based, because it shows evidence that it does work, is because your people are not ready for it. So what you are doing isn't correct. So maybe when they're ready for happiness or healing, they'll come and sit in your office and lay in that chair, and you can talk to them. When was the last time you were hugged as a child? And you can go through all these steps. And I said, respectfully, it has everything to do with what you're serving. And I kept going back to food because I love to eat, right? But we're being fed spiritual food, healing. And each of us, most of us, may have opportunities to change a life. That is power. Do you realize that? Like, oh my gosh, I have this person in front of me. I can do and I can provide something that would be amazing. So what do I do? So this weaving, this sweetgrass is used to weave in the very best of what I've learned in school to what I know as a person traditionally and how I can honor the person in front of us. My wife, she coined something, it's called hope. We know what hope is. Hope, give us hope. But it's an acronym that I never forgot, and it's honor our people's experiences. That's powerful. Okay, so when I see the client here, they're not a number. And how can I speak to the person and provide my attention and listen versus next? Let me see here. You got this, take your medication. We'll see you next week, blah, blah, whatever. If they're truly being heard, but if we're using this approach, using sweetgrass that we use in our ceremony, that we apply when we need cleansing, clarity, healing, a blessing, that why not use this medicine intentionally every time someone says a sweetgrass method? Oh, I remember it's that medicine, that herb that they use in ceremony. So when you're meeting with the client, you are speaking to that person's spirit and hoping that you can make this difference and honoring who they are and their experiences. That takes a lot. And what I mean by that is it takes a lot of us to sit with that and to see what I can do to help that person be where they need to be. So I have another question for you, and then I'm going to share with you why sweetgrass. What is sweetgrass specifically? So if you could pull out your phones one more time. And this question is, which strand of the sweetgrass method most resonates with you? And I should have gone into the introspection is all about us. Day one. Are we culturally humble? Are we culturally competent? I don't know how many of these copies I've had. I have maybe like 19 to 20 certificates that say you are culturally competent, because I attended and I still am not competent across the globe. But I have that certificate. So being at this understanding of cultural humility with the introspection is what grounds us initially. The second strand is the communication. And if when in doubt, check it out. We can connect with other clinicians, other professors to ground, hey, if what I'm doing am I on point? You know, when you start that first day of work and you're like, what do I do? And where are my instruments? We need to use our mouth, what Creator has given us, right? Hope, trust, humility, strength-based, introspection, integration, multiple perspectives, intentional, the intentionality, relationality and intentionality, working with Indigenous populations is non-negotiable. I will say that again. Your intentions, respectfully, culturally respectful and responsive, not just culturally sensitive. I'll be sensitive. Culturally appropriate, I'll make sure that I'm appropriate. Culturally respectful, I'll be respectful. But if you don't do anything about it, if you're not culturally responsive, we didn't do anything other than I was respectful, but I'm still not going to provide a cultural application for success. So why sweetgrass? For my family, the sweetgrass medicine in many Indigenous traditions is sacred medicine. We use it for cleansing, ceremony, prayer, connection. It reminds us of healing is sacred work, and each client should be viewed as a sacred person. Again, that takes us to another level. I'm not saying that we are all medicine people, but our elders would say the work that we do, that we are medicine people, because we're taking care of that person's spirit. And we're hoping that we can provide anything we can do to elevate and making positive change to the steps they make. That's a lot of responsibility on us. That's why I love watching comedy afterwards, because I am so drained. I have to detach. And I hope everyone also for the first strand as introspection, it's all about self-care. Don't burn out. Pat, I don't want you to burn out. You're doing everything. Make sure you refuel. Make sure you refuel. This braid that you see symbolizes interconnection and relationship. And for those traditions that do not use sweetgrass like here, keep this in mind. It's a metaphor for the cultural threads woven through Aboriginal communities, connection to country, and continuum of past, present, and future. I've seen some beautiful baskets that's woven in there. The flexibility, the time, the songs that were sung, the gathering that happened when that took place. That's connection. So it doesn't like, well, there's a sweetgrass month. We don't have sweetgrass doesn't grow around here. But we have where we can weave in what works best for that client or that community or that mob. So just breaking this down just a little bit more, the first strand is self-reflection. Do I know everything? Do I know my job? Right? Can I do my job? I think I know as much as I can. I'm grounded. I'm not burned out. The cultural humility piece, I don't know it all. That we sit down with an equal of I'm here to help you help yourself. Not I'm a doctor, you're not. I'm right, you're wrong. I know everything, you know nothing. That's control, right? That's not the Indigenous way where we sit down and build a relationship. Can you imagine if you build a relationship with your significant other like that? I'm right, you're wrong. You don't know anything, I know everything. Indigenous and Western integration. Again, that first strand is using the very best of both. So what works for the people here in Perth may not work for the Indigenous people in Sydney area. So we want to make sure that the sweetgrass is like the blade of grass. When stepped on, it'll bend, but after you leave, it'll bend right back up, is to have the flexibility. So it's tailored in every community. every mob. Everyone is different. Everyone is unique. The communication, if you don't speak, God won't even hear you, is what I hear. This is a powerful instrument. So we need to communicate, or when in doubt, check it out. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. I need to go talk to my coworker. Or collaboration. You don't have to do it alone. So I have my wife and I, we're collaborating and providing and sharing and disseminating medicine. Again, consultation. I need to find out if this is what I'm doing. I have my auntie here, Dr. Gail Morse. She's been ghosting me because I've been contacting her, I don't know how many times. And then she says, I'll talk to you at the end of the year. What? Wow. That was culturally insensitive. But just always wanting to know if what I'm doing is correct, and always seeking guidance from my elders is something that we cherish. Continuation, and this is where a lot of agencies, institutions miss it. They're very strong at the very beginning at introspection. I am here for you, brother. I'm here for you, sister. I have all of these great artwork that honors your people. We are here for you. And I'm going to say the things that's going to empower you. But then it fades away, and I call it the honeymoon effect. After 2 weeks to a month, we're just another number. And then when we're walking in, and instead of saying, hey, brother, they're just like, Mark, you can go ahead and have a seat over there. And I'm like, hey, I thought we were brothers. We're not related anymore. Did I do something? The continuation in the Sweetgrass Method is the cultural intentionality. It's an action-oriented of cultural intentionality, which is non-negotiable. That we always honor them from the first day we see them to the last day we meet with them. It's not like, hey, I want to know about your culture and your ceremonies. And then after a month in, it's like, yeah, I'm kind of bored with you already. Let me see if I can find a new client that we're coming in. It still is essential for us to keep that relationship. And it takes work, right? In any relationship? Yes? Anybody in here in a relationship? Can I see a show of hands? Nobody wants to admit it? Okay. Note that nobody wanted to admit that they're in a relationship. But it takes work, yes? Maybe you don't want to go eat there, but like, yeah, well, I have to take one for the team. I better go eat there. It's all about balance. So to give you just a 2D version of how these are woven in, the sweetgrass is used to represent the sacredness of the person and intentionality of the space created by you and your client, you and the family, you and the community. Used in ceremony, the Sweetgrass Method emphasizes flexibility of our approaches. Again, what may work with Mark here in Perth may not work for Allison in Sydney. Well, they should work. They're all Indigenous. So if it doesn't work, it's them. No. Remember the flexibility. Healing is intentional, and the braid across individual, family, or tribal and communities, ensuring that care is continuous. It takes sacrifice. It takes time. It takes energy for you to give to your client. This approach acknowledges the importance of identity, ceremony, connection, not only to the person, but to the land, and collective resilience, supporting the well-being of Indigenous across this land. So in 2 minutes, I'm going to share with you something that, does anybody know what YouTube is? Yes? Does anybody not know what YouTube is? Hands? Was that a hand? No? Okay. So if you just type in the Sweetgrass Method, if you go to YouTube, the Sweetgrass Method, it'll sum everything up of what I just shared with you. And I was so not impressed. I was touched by the connections of my relatives here across the pond, that when we developed this, I included some of the landscape, as you will see in just a moment, to honor my relatives here. So it's a 2-minute introduction of this approach for you as clinicians and or see. Okay, so if you just, again, if you just go to YouTube, it gives a 2-minute introduction of the 3 strands, and it shows initially I wanted the counselor to be Indigenous, but the individuals that were putting it together didn't want to do that because they were saying the majority of people providing services to your people are non-Indigenous. So I'm like, wow, you're right. But it has where the practitioner is learning from the Indigenous client, learning from the grandma, the grandpa, learning from the community. Gosh, I'm so sorry that this didn't play. Okay. So things do happen and we're resilient, right? When things happen, we don't just go, oh, shucks, even though I said, oh, shucks. But we have faced so many in our life that we overcome adversities. So we do what we do. Angus, where's Angus? Angus. I love that name because I like the guitarist from AC/DC. I want to show you this case study, and I want to read it, if you wouldn't mind reading it along with me, of how I utilized this Sweetgrass Method with a client. Maya, it's a 28-year-old Native American woman, seeks counseling for depression, anxiety, and feelings of disconnection following the loss of a family member. Looking at difficulties and trusting ways to navigate what that individual is experiencing, previous negative healthcare experiences, and feels isolated from even getting support and help in the community area. So utilizing the Sweetgrass Method, the introspection, the clinician reflects on personal assumptions and our cultural biases. Yeah, they're all the same. I already know how to deal with them. I don't even need to know I'm a doctor. I have all these alphabets behind my name. I don't need to do that. Let me do my thing. Explores Maya's strengths, cultural identity, family history, and traditional sources of support. Integrates evidence-based assessments alongside discussion with cultural beliefs and spirituality or spiritual applications and community connection. So it's not just, let me use the Western instrument, but truly looking at ways that we can identify some protective factors. Communication establishes trust, relational therapeutic alliance through active listening. We love to talk. What about listening to their story? At the very beginning, how we started with a collage of our pictures, the intentionality behind that is the way we approach and how we work with others. I was so excited to hear that the relatives in this area are all storytellers. That's who we are. So it wasn't just definitions. We wanted to show you who we are intentionally. So as clinicians, it's like, I don't need to know about that. Have you been depressed before? But we want to share who we are and where we come from. But I know we're stuck with, as professionals, that we can't disclose. That's a no-no. Don't do that. Hey, where are you from? It's none of your business. We're here for you, not for me. Answer number 3, please. But again, it's building a relationship. They're coming to a facility where 1, I don't want to be here. 2, I don't know you. 3, there's a history of mistrust. And then you want to dive right into, hey, have you thought about killing yourself? Hey, have you thought about A, B, and C? I ain't going to tell you. I don't know you. At least you can ask me if I like ice cream. Can we at least start this relationship? And that's like nothing of what we ask as Indigenous people is the importance of relationality. The continuation, just looking in this particular area, ways that we can collaborate with that client for their healing plan that includes counseling, cultural engagement, and community support. Encourages participation in culturally meaningful activities, ceremonies, or traditional practices identified by the client. Again, it's like, hey, I know all of these amazing traditional practices in the United States, and we're working with Indigenous populations here in Perth. Well, aren't you guys all the same? No. But also reinforce strengths, resilience, and ongoing connections to family and community beyond therapy and session. Is how do we build and how do we develop a plan that's a success for the clients that we are serving. So if we are, and Allison had mentioned, I don't like the word blending. Blending comes in when we have the majority of this driving force and this method. And then the blending is, I could take maybe 10 or 15% and we'll still keep going, but it's not 50-50. When we weave in, the intentionality is we need to make sure that at least half of who we are is represented in the diagnoses and or the treatment and or the services that are provided. And it's not to say to do away with Western practices, is that we're saying we're weaving both of those in for the client that we are servicing. So the Sweetgrass Method demonstrates how integrating Indigenous knowledge, cultural strengths, and evidence-based clinical practices can create a more relational, holistic, and effective healing experience for our clients. And it's always going to be different because people are different. Everybody in here, we could say at 100% are human beings. Colors, shapes, complexions are different. So we should be treated as individuals, right? That we have our own gifts and talents and areas that we need to elevate as far as strengths. So again, this fictional case just illustrates how introspection, communication, and continuation work together to support culturally grounded assessments, intervention, and long-term wellness. As we are always weaving in, if you noticed in the sweetgrass, even within one strand, there's many strands. So Mark, when you work, you have different approaches in where you go. You know what your intentions are, but you know how to approach certain communities. So even within one of the strands, there's many strands. So just if plan A doesn't work, in other words, with your client, you have plan B. And guess what? If plan B doesn't work, what else? Plan C. But guess what? We want to take it a step further. You have the rest of the alphabet. Who says 3 strikes, you're out? Right? Like, really? Like, if this doesn't work, I already tried 3 times. I'm sorry. You're a lost cause, Mark. That's it. No, we could still provide as much as we can to help. This right here is, it's like a recipe. It's a sheet that has each of these steps, whether you're Indigenous or non-Indigenous, to take these actual steps and incorporating the Sweetgrass Method. And it's not to say I have this, I can go and apply it. We do have a training with the Sweetgrass Method, and it's a 2-day training. It's like 4.5 hours, but it really looks at how do we apply this in certain circumstances as clinicians, as professionals, as educators. But it's an introduction so you can see these applications, the introspection plan, introspection approach, and then communication and continuation. And if you go onto this QR code, it will have that information that's on there. If it only looks like it's one page, you have to click on the center and it'll open it all up. And it'll come across. So yes. So Nyawin Nalatsam, want to thank you for the opportunity. We're very excited to share some amazing news along with incorporating the Sweetgrass Method. I'm currently running a pilot study of a first of its kind prototype, a suicide screening tool. Initially, it was for natives by natives. We're in 2026 and we do not have an instrument for our people. What's up with that? That's pretty embarrassing. But when it starts hitting home in our family, in my family, and your family members telling you, what are you going to do about it? That hits home even more. So developing an instrument as such is something that I'm really, really excited, especially seeing some of the results Right now, we're working with some treatment facilities that are working with Indigenous populations. And I didn't want to be biased, and I don't want to be biased. I, along with a panel of experts, and Gail was one of the individuals that was a part of the panel of experts, are looking at this instrument and saying, this is going to work. I've done 17 years of administering screening tools on suicide, and it doesn't work. We see it. Well, I shouldn't say it. Let me just step back. It works a few times. It does identify. I can't say it doesn't work, but we still have the highest rate of suicide. So looking at the results today, like last month, it's showing amazing results that this instrument is identifying suicide risk factors versus what they're using today, the instruments that we're using today. So we're going to be continuing the next couple of months and seeing how we can unfold some amazing opportunities to create this instrument where we can have a larger study and get this instrument out to everybody. And would love to bring it to the Torres Strait Islanders to create something here in ways that we can service our people. That's where it starts. So again, we just want to thank you. Turning to my boss. So I want to close just with a brief song. And in this closing song, I just want to again give thanks for this amazing moment in our lives. I mean, oh my gosh, you're presenting with your wife? I mean, that was the amazing moment. Okay. Oh. Okay, that's recorded too, so we can play that back. But this song is for each and every one of you. And so this closing song is an honor song. And usually when an honor song is rendered, everybody stands. But in this case, I am honoring, my wife and I are honoring each and every one of you for all the sweat equity you've put in, and for all the students that are putting in hours, and I'm not eating, I'm not sleeping, but all of the days and the sacrifices that you've made to help your people is priceless. And all the things that you were doing for the people across this country, just know that they may not have any other individuals with a good spirit as yours to help them. So with this honor song, I just want you to continue to do amazing things in the future. Make sure you fuel up some peace, love, and positivity, as our son says, sending peace, love, and positivity, Dad. And I love that. I was like, ooh, I'll take that. So we're sending peace, love, and positivity to each and every one of you and all that you do. For all the leaders that are here, wow, please take care of you so you can continue to take care of us in that way. So this honor song, we honor each and every one of you. Ooh. Hmm. Oh, Yawen, thank you. Oh, thank you.
Can we just also thanks Mark again and Allison. Thank you for honouring us and the people in the room. We honour you back. Please give them another round of applause. Thank you. There is lots of behind the scene works that goes to bringing together such wonderful speakers. So thank you to all of you. So we have some time now for some questions. So if you have a question for our beautiful speakers, please raise your hand, and we've got some microphones that will come around. Mark and Alison, do you want to come back? Come back this way. Before your question, just very briefly introduce yourself. And I said brief, just so we know who you are and how you're positioning here in this group. And make it a question, please. If you have longer yarns or stories, we've got our time afterwards where we can connect and talk a bit longer there. So does anyone have a question for Mark and Alison? Thank you.
My name's George. I'm a psych honours student with these guys as well. I just had a quick question. Obviously, a lot of what you've spoken about today is built on trust, but trust takes time, obviously. And what you were saying about how when you drove here, there's lots of practices, you know, probably Sterling Highway, they're everywhere. But how do we build that trust so that people actually walk in the door when we don't have that time to build it, if that makes sense?
That's an amazing question, and I do have a short answer. And it's based on a document that I wrote when I was at the University of Iowa. It was a research document. And how do we do research among our people? And we titled it Research at the Speed of Trust. There's no time when it will be available, no time when we can make it happen. We don't put a time limit on it, unfortunately or fortunately, depending on how you look at it. But it's really at the time when they're ready. And sometimes it's taking those extra calls, extra opportunities to spend with them. Finding other ways to engage with our members and our clients is really important. And as a practitioner in community now in Minnesota, that is something I'm learning every day. I'm usually been away from my community and going around the US, working with American Indian, Alaska Native communities all over. And now I have a job where I'm actually there every day, meeting our community members and trying to find their needs, trying to find what works with them, what doesn't work. And it's taking a lot of time. But I want our people to heal, so I give them the time they need.
Okay. You bring a really good point in allies. Trusted allies, something that was emphasized on when working with non-Indigenous practitioners. My elders were saying, make sure you connect with trusted allies. And I'm just like, why not just allies? Because some allies just need a checkbox and they've burned us. So you may have all the intentions, but going into communities, they may see like, yeah, we've dealt with individuals a year ago just the same. But I would just say, take heart, connect with a community member, an Indigenous person to say, how can I take these steps? And that's where those intentionalities of, I want to do the very best, but I want to make sure that I'm saying what I should be saying. I don't want to force the relationship. That's when they go even further. Like, and then we all have deadlines, right? Yes, we have watches, but back home in the States, we're like, we're on Indian time. It's going to happen when it's going to happen. But I work for an institution. They're like, yeah. Your class is starting. Get over there right now. And I'm like, I'm on Indian time. Like, no, I know that the almighty clock is a Western concept, right? But I'll say this, for Indigenous families, communities, our people. It's not about the time, it's about the relationship. So we're quick to say when we have, and I'm one of those, is if I'm waiting for some clients and they're 10 minutes late, 15 minutes late, I'll do this. Yeah, you were supposed to be here like 15 minutes ago. Or I'll just be passive aggressive and just go, it's just kind of like, hey, chill out. Of course, I want to hold my relatives accountable and to teach them just to be responsible. But what's essential is not about the time. It's about the relationship that I'm going to build. Right? They could say, you know what? When I met with George, I know I was a little late. I apologize. But we had the most amazing yarn. She shared her tribe. She shared her community, where you came from, and your likes and interests. In a way, of course, being ethical, right? But also honoring and elevating the client that you're with, and tell me what your likes are and what you do. And that's just at least planting that first seed. And in any relationship, it's going to take time. But I know we have institutions like, we got to get it quick. We got to get them out there. And we cannot rush these relationships. We cannot rush intentionality. We cannot rush ceremony. I want to go to ceremony. Can we finish it up? There's a footy that's going to be coming on in about 10 minutes. Can we kind of hurry up, speed it up? Can you imagine what our elders, we'd probably get slapped. Footy, here's my foot. Huh? What about that footy? So having those experiences is, please connect with other Indigenous professionals. When in doubt, check it out. I'm going to be working with this community. Does anyone know how do I take these first steps to make that connection? That's being wise. This is what I would do. I'm Native, right? I'm in the States, and when I was asked to go work with another tribe, because they said, hey, you're Indian, you're a psychologist, go work with the other Indians. I was like, I don't know those people. Like, what? I don't know their ways. I don't know their traditions. And that's the reality. So how do we start this relationship? It's going to take time and with intentions. So I hope those intentions are good for you, because you want it to be successful and powerful, because you want change, positive change. You don't want to just say, okay, I went and they were non-compliant. Next, all these Indigenous are non-compliant. Well, they don't trust you. They don't know you. Again, it's not because they don't want, or they do not deserve happiness or healing. It's, I just want to know if I trust George. That's it. But thank you for the question. Yeah. Any other? Yes.
Hi, it's Garsha. I'm a third-year student studying psych. And I'm feeling grateful to be here. There's a lot of experience in the room. And I just had a question for you, Mark. You've actively said the word healer. So I'm interested in, with working with Indigenous people, how far does actively identifying as a healer compare to being a facilitator for introspection? How's your experience on that? What works most of the time?
Yes, and I want to be clear that we are not healers, like with that title from our medicine men and medicine women, but the work that we are doing will be, from their perspective, is you're doing healing work, but we don't go around saying, hey, we're healers among our people, because we would be slapped again. But we're doing good work for that person and that person's spirit. They're the healers. We ask them to pray for us in the work that we do. But if we at least come with this introspection that we're coming in a good way, just that word, hey, I'm coming in a good way. Or what is it they say, the relative? I'm coming as a good relative. Relative. I'm coming here as a good relative. That may not mean anything to anybody, but for Indigenous people, we're saying you're coming in a good way to honor me and my family. And not just my adversities or my faults, but you're here to honor me. So when we say I'm coming in a good way, good, that healing way, I'm here to bring medicine. And I'm going to do everything I can to help you help yourself. How can I elevate you? How can I understand? So it's going to take time, as I didn't know that tribe over there. Yes, I was native, but I don't know what their likes or dislikes. What do they like to eat? So yeah, I'm a sous chef, but what do they like to eat? You know, kind of thing. So I needed to learn. So George, even myself, I still needed to learn about other tribes. And what worked for me is I connected with elders. So as soon as I connected with elders and they liked me, they started talking to the community about me. Okay, see that guy? And so they were just saying, hey, you're that Indian psychologist. Hey, you're that Indian psychologist. They didn't even know my name. Hey, you're that Indian psychologist. I'm like, I have a name. I have feelings too. You know, this is me. But it's like, how can I get in good with the mob? So I needed to ask elders, and they were telling me, do this, don't do this. Go here, don't go over there. So they were telling me versus me saying, hey, whoa, whoa, whoa. I'm a doctor here. You know, I don't even need your advice. If it doesn't work, it's your people kind of thing. So that arrogance goes out with the introspection that, okay, so what do I do? And so I needed to talk to people that have been working with that tribe. And they were sharing with me, Dr. Isaac was saying, don't do this, Mark. If you're going to go over here, take a left, don't take a right. So I needed to do my own homework. But getting back to the healer, we don't use those words as clinicians, but the work that we do mimics, you know, the healing process, but not necessarily like ceremonial, you know, getting into the definition of real medicine men, real medicine women. But we come in a good way. And if some of the clients that I work with, they like sweetgrass, they like sage, cedar, tobacco, and I'll provide that. We even smoke that and do a prayer that way. And others that are Christian natives, we were raised in the church, and so we have the best of both worlds. And so we want to just honor who they are, wherever their path is, that we want to honor you and your experiences. And that takes a lot. Because we have a lot of individual approaches and identities. So we want to just make sure that we elevate their spirit like that. So, but thank you for the question. I'm not a healer, but I am a medicine man. I do have some Tylenol in my pocket, and I am a man. So technically, I'm a medicine with medicine, and I'm a man. I'm not a medicine man. Yes, sir. I don't know if you get this or not. I love to tell jokes, and my wife does not. But do you know the power of laughter? Laughter is medicine. Did you know the indigenous people coined that? Laughter is medicine. Did you know that? Laughter does amazing things for us internally. So even when working with families in grief, sometimes we'll share some jokes, and others that don't get it, they're like, that was inappropriate. They're sad right now. Why are you telling jokes? But not realizing the medicinal properties in connecting with others through laughter. It's just so powerful. So I'm not a comedian, but I love laughter. Yes.
Hello, my name's Josh, third year psych student. Sort of acknowledging the histories of our Indigenous people, how would you adapt these sweetgrass sort of systems towards individuals who are still cementing and discovering their identities?
The flexibility and weaving in what works best for that client, it's individualistic. So we would tailor what works best. The flexibility of the grass is how long it takes for the client is up to the client and our relationship. So again, it's not on, it has to happen in 2 weeks. You better know who you are and where you come from. You better know your mob. You better know your language. It's how can I take you where you need to be, and how can I weave in as a person or as a guide that can help you be where you need to be to understand. So having the flexibility, having that cultural humility is taking them at their pace versus our pace. Thank you.
Thank you for taking time to answer those questions. So join me one last time for thanking Dr. Mark Standing Eagle Baez and Dr. Allison Baez for sharing their wisdoms and insights and time. You've been very generous this evening. I'm also going to acknowledge Professor Gail Morse, who's sitting in the front row, who's been giggling at the right time, nodding at the right time. Thank you for your presence. So Gail is a Mohawk psychologist and professor from Russell Sage College from New York State. Sorry, I was about to say the wrong state. Thank you for being part of the group and being the fun aunt in the front row. So I'd also like to extend sincere thanks to our co-hosts once again, the Bourne Centre, UWA School for Psychological Science, the Australian Indigenous Psychologists Association and the Indigenous Futures Centre for bringing this event together. And thank you for everyone who has contributed and everyone who's participated.